Hey, welcome to a new episode of Last Call Baseball, number 152. I'm Dorian. Have you heard what the Miami Marlins have done? I'm joking. I am not talking about the Marlins this week, but I have two words for you. Paul Skeens. For me, he's become must-watch TV. Or what was that old NBC line back like during the time of Friends and Seinfeld? Must-see TV. I am now watching all of his starts because, are you serious? The rookie Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher has already had two starts, a combined 10 innings, 3 walks, 18 strikeouts. And his last start back on Friday against the Chicago Cubs, he struck out the first 7 Cubs batters. Both of his starts have come against the Cubs, at home against the Cubs, and then at Chicago, also against the Cubs. There's no breaking news here. The guy was an all solar system pitcher at LSU during his college year when LSU won the national championship. He was amazing then. And for me, it's amazing that he throws a 102-mile-an-hour fastball. And when you watch him throw, there's almost no effort. Because if you think about just the strain of throwing that hard, I think of someone like Aroldis Chapman, who's now his teammate in Pittsburgh. He's a lefty. He has a very unique windup, and you can tell. I mean, he is barreling down to grab his 101 mile an hours. Paul Skeens, I'm like, please don't blow out your arm. Please don't blow out your shoulder. That's when you think, when you hear how, and not just hear, but see how fast, how hard he throws. But he doesn't throw hard. He throws at ease. It's so repeatable. It's a beautiful thing to watch. I love pitching in baseball. And the fact that he can throw that hard, and he has such great command of the strike zone. I don't think Paul Skeens is going to make me a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. I have already been a Paul Skeens fan from LSU, but now I'm going to watch every single Pittsburgh Pirate game that he starts. I thought it was pretty cool that on Friday, all the Major League Baseball teams wore their Armed Forces Appreciation uniform. Paul Skeens was a cadet at the Air Force Academy for 2 years, and he actually wanted to become an F-16 pilot. I mean, Paul Skeens is 6'6". I don't know how he was going to squeeze his humongous frame into the cockpit of an F-16, but he got to wear Armed Forces Appreciation when he was already in the Air Force Academy. I also watched some other beautiful, outstanding pitching performances by the AA Mississippi Braves when they played the Biloxi Shuckers. I thought you weren't talking about the Marlins. 3 of the Mississippi Braves pitchers were outstanding in AA. Spencer Schwellenbach, 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, no earned runs. Then Hurston Waldrop. He pitched 8 innings, which is actually, it was in a doubleheader. So, doubleheaders are, 7 innings each. So they actually had to go to extra innings. Waldrop pitched the entire complete game. 8 innings, 6 hits, no walks, 8 strikeouts, 1 earned run. And then the cherry on top was Ian Mejia's performance Friday night on another second game of a doubleheader. He struck out 11 Biloxi Shucker players. I was watching that game, and I didn't even realize he was on a no-hitter until the top of the 7th inning. In the top of the 7th inning, there was some man in the stands yelling. You can barely hear him yelling, "No-hitter, no-hitter, no-hitter." I think he was trying to get the crowd pumped up and get behind Mejia, because this is a historic moment. It's not that you don't see a no-hitter every year. You might see a no-hitter once in your life if you're lucky. And I was like, oh my God, I'm part of history here. And this is amazing. And so I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to pay attention here. And the crazy thing is that they always show the scoreboard or the whatever on television. It says no hits. It says 0 hits. And I was like, yeah, it didn't register because this is not just Mejia's. This is Schwellenbach's, Waldrop, and Mejia. They were mowing through the Shuckers' bats. When the Shuckers were up to bat, their inning was over within 3 minutes. That is not exaggeration. They would throw a pitch, pop up, or they would strike out the side. Pop up, Another inning, strike out the side. Just soft, very soft pop-ups. And it just didn't occur to me that Mejia was on a no-hitter. And it was amazing. I mean, this Ian Mejia guy he was just promoted from high A Rome up to double A Mississippi Braves 2 months ago. And now there's some speculation that he may even be promoted again to the triple A team, the Gwinnett Stripers, before the end of the season. So, I mean, you are making a tremendous case to go from high A to triple A in the same season when you throw a no-hitter. Congratulations to Ian Mejia. But I do want to say this. I don't even watch any double A baseball. I don't even know if the Mississippi pitchers were that good or the Shuckers players were that uninspiring at the bat. Because at the same time, there was not a lot of offense by Mississippi. I think they won 3 games, I think, and they didn't score any more than 2 or 3 runs in all of their wins. And that pitching staff, as I told you, all the stats I just gave you, any team's going to win when you're throwing no-hitters or when you're doing a shutout complete game, Really wasn't impressed by, unfortunately, the Mississippi offense or the Biloxi offense. And when you're watching 2.5, 3 games and nothing's happening, either both the pitching staffs are outstanding, which that may be the case, or their offenses are kind of putrid. I don't know what it is, but congratulations again. Even as Mejia was finishing off his no-hitter, the atmosphere really wasn't that wonderful. In contrast, back to college, the SEC, where Paul Skeens mowed through LSU's season last year. There is nothing like SEC baseball. I am now a convert. I've always knew SEC baseball is the premier, the highest tier of college baseball. But going and experiencing that is something completely different. You can turn on the SEC network or ESPN, ESPN Plus, all the games that the SEC college baseball games are on. Dudy Noble Field, the best stadium you've been to. It's much better than any minor league stadium you've been to. It's insane. You have what they call like the left field lounge. You can barbecue out there. People rent out like little barbecue, not barbecue, they outdoor suites basically. In the left field, they also have student housing, which is crazy. So you have you can see students are sitting in the balcony just watching the game. The traditional chants that they yelling out like white. One side of the stadium is yelling white. The other side of the stadium is yelling maroon. That's the colors of Mississippi State. The music, you can see that the scoreboard is incredible. There's so much information on it. It's crystal clear, but it also doesn't seem overwhelming with the amount of information they have. And when the Bulldogs played the Missouri Tigers, and I still can't believe that the University of Missouri is in the SEC. What are we doing here? The next thing you know, the University of Alaska is going to be in the SEC. Doesn't make any sense. Being able to play in an SEC stadium at a big SEC baseball school, you sit there and you think, if you were one of these young men, why would you ever want to leave? Why not just become like a 9th year senior and be like that film Van Wilder? There's no reason to leave the SEC to go play and frankly slum it in the minor leagues, where you have at maybe 1,000 people will show up if you're lucky. The facilities in the minor league are nowhere near that these top tier SEC schools have. It's intoxicating. I couldn't imagine playing at LSU, University of Florida, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. I'd never leave school. That was me. I'd be like, my scholarship ran out. It's okay. I'll just pay for it for the next 10. I'll just pay for my own stuff for the next 10 years, and I'll take 2 classes a year, like underwater basket weaving and a yoga class. Get your booty to an SEC college baseball game. Oh, and by the way, the Bulldogs lost that game 4-3, but that wasn't even the whole story. And you're talking about barbecues and food at the baseball stadiums. Our next guest knows all about a different kind of food. This week, our special guest is Frankie Lasagna, owner of Terrazza Restaurant in Toronto. Frankie, welcome to Last Call Baseball.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Putting on our baseball hats, putting on our baseball brains.
Yeah.
You have a kitchen staff.
Yes, I do.
If you were a baseball manager, how do you see the staff? Like, who's the catcher? Who's the shortstop? Who's the relief pitcher? Do
Uh,
people in the restaurant industry ever see their staff like that?
it's a good question. There's definitely, yeah, definitely certain positions are higher valued for sure. Like I've been doing this now. This is my 16th year. The kitchen is the heartbeat for sure. The kitchen is the hardest to find and maintain good quality I guess people and staff. Not diminishing or saying that the serving position is less hard. It's just harder to find good staff in the kitchen. So I guess in theory, the kitchen would be my starting pitchers. Then when those guys, I guess, need a day off and I got to go in there or someone else, I guess you can call that the relief pitcher. And then my front of the house, yeah, they're like I guess my infield. They got to be everywhere. So if you want to say how your staff is like your team, I guess my kitchen's my starting pitching, and my servers are like my infield.
I like that.
Yeah.
Are you inspired now to not only run a restaurant but then go manage your Sunday softball league?
Oh, well, it's funny. My daughter just started playing. Not just started. She's playing t-ball. Started 2 years ago. And my wife, she's like, "Hey, I'm going to sign you up to be a coach." And in my head, I was like, I don't want to say no, but the restaurant life is very busy and strenuous at times. So I was more looking forward to, bringing my camp chair, my sunflower seeds, and enjoying the game. But first year, my wife had me up there, with the girls and boys, and showing them where to run and how to and where to be. And it was nice. When I'm in there, I really enjoy it. But if I could choose, I asked the next year, maybe, unless they're dying for someone to coach, I'll sit on the sideline. But you never know. Maybe one day when things calm down at the restaurant, if they ever do for me, then maybe I'd be more motivated. But the restaurant life is definitely a grind, like people say. It's definitely not easy. But you never know. One day maybe I'll be able to coach them when they get a little older.
I think that coaching your daughters or anyone else is sons and daughters in baseball, softball, or t-ball. That's the perfect promotion way. Just like you're going to Rogers Center and you see like the outfield that has some lip balm company, and
Yes.
above that, some that's a perfect way to do catering. To have like the
Yeah.
directors they have their name on the back of the chair. You can bring
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
chair and just have Terrazza brought to you
Yeah.
by the bat, or you be like at all these ridiculous games like, oh, that stolen base was brought to you by
Ah.
toothpaste. It's
Well,
it's
I do sponsor for the last, I guess, 13 years or 14 years. I've been sponsoring in the same league my daughter plays, but the higher age groups. I have been sponsoring a team. So I do get my name out there on one team. So I'm just waiting for my son and daughter to get old enough that they'll make it into the Terrazza team jerseys.
I would love that, man. It's just coming to me right now. It's like that single was brought to you by pink Himalayan salt in
Oh.
your delicious linguine. Like, come by between the hours of 11 and 8 p.m.
Yeah, you might be on something.
People, you can't see this right now, but you have a Blue Jays hat on.
Yes.
Where does your love of the Toronto Blue Jays and baseball in general come from?
Well, I guess just being born here and born and raised here my whole life. I guess my parents, my dad was big into sports, so whatever I guess they were watching, I guess I had to watch. But I was always into sports too, and naturally you just cheer for your home teams. Um, Long story short, when my sister was born in 1992, she was born at the same time the Jays won the pennant. So she was named after Roberto Alomar. My dad was in the paper. They came to interview him. My dad also had a restaurant here before me. They came to interview my dad and my mom with my sister, and it was a whole big thing. Baby girl named after Roberto Alomar, and so kind of Blue Jays was always around. And then I just played baseball growing up and loved it, and just always will watch them no matter what, win or lose. Toronto teams, I'm always going to be watching.
Your mother's a strong person because I can't imagine that conversation. She's like, "You want our first girl to be named after a baseball player?" I was kind of hoping to name her after my dear grandma Gertrude or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with also your last name's Lasagna, so you're kind of setting your kids up for some sort of adventure as you grow up. But yeah, it was kind of cool. I remember I was 7, I think, and don't remember too much. Just remember now as I'm older, I see the clippings in the newspaper, and it brings back some memories. But yeah, it was a cool moment for my family, my parents. But then yeah, we all kind of played sports growing up, so baseball and the Jays have always been in our minds and our hearts.
Have you guys ever done, because again, you have a last name nobody forgets, and it's a very delicious last name. Have you
Yes.
guys ever done any of that, like 23 and Me or Ancestry, to see where in the world your name actually comes from? Maybe your
You know
fifth
what?
great grandfather invented lasagna.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think I know I haven't. I don't think my parents have. My sister might have done it, but no, we don't know the roots, I guess you can say. It's funny you say that. I had a customer not too long ago come in, and without me asking me, he told me, "Do you know how many lasagnas there are in the world?" And I said, I don't. I know I've seen a soccer player on the highlights with the last name Lasagna, and but then he told me there's over 1 million, which at one point like maybe didn't feel as cool, but another time like, whoa, where are all these people? And so my dad was my parents were born in Canada, but my dad's grandparents were born in Sicily. So we don't have many roots and ties back home, as my grandparents have now passed away. But yeah, I know one day it might be cool to find out where it all came from and where it all started. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but a couple years ago, my last name got me pretty famous for almost catching a home run ball. And during that whole crazy week where everything went viral, a lot of people reached out to me with the last name Lasagna from like the States or from here. And so it was pretty cool to connect with some people that had their same last name. Wonder if we're
Yeah,
related.
all you guys have to go to your clinic and do the pinprick to see, your
Yeah,
your blood or whatever,
yeah,
DNA stuff. Yeah, like you mentioned, you had your moment of more fame because you're already famous. You have a restaurant, but you come from a restaurant family. Is you had said you almost caught Aaron Judge's what
yeah.
his 61st home
It's
run,
a
was it?
record tying home run ball.
Yeah, in Rogers Center, right?
Yeah, in Rochester. Yeah, almost 1 inch, 2 inches away. It was wild.
How was business at the restaurant after that week?
The next morning was insane. So I guess I didn't really understand what was happening because it was late at night. And other than people saying, yo, you got a lot of airtime on the highlights with my reaction, some emails started trickling in and saying, hey, we'd be happy to talk to you in the morning, blah, blah, blah. But the first thing that happened was my wife was waking me, say, get up. You have to be on breakfast television, which is our local daytime morning show. And so I got out of bed, washed my face, put on my jersey and hat, and did the interview. And then it was nonstop from that morning to like 8 p.m. of interviews and people coming to talk to me. It was wild, but I enjoyed sharing the story, and I thought it was, I took myself out of the situation as a spectator, and I thought, yeah, this is kind of funny, it's kind of cool the way people kind of ran with it and all the memes and jokes that popped up. And so it's interview after interview after interview. And then that was Thursday. And so Friday, I'm thinking, okay, now my life is back to normal. I was driving to hockey, and I got a text, a random number saying, hey, it's so and so, I work with Budweiser. I have a crazy idea. Can you call me? So I pulled over, and they're like, hey, we were thinking of taking you to the New York Yankees game in New York to try to catch the next one. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. When? He's like, uh, tomorrow or possibly tonight. Is there any way you can get to the airport in 2 hours? And so I was like, my first thought was my pizza cook is sick and I have to eat pizzas that night. So, and we're busy. It was a Friday night. What do I do? Right. So how do I make this work? I called my wife, I called my parents, and they were saying, close the restaurant if you have to. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Luckily for me and my customers, I was able to call an old employee who used to work for me and said, hey, man, I'll pay you double. Is there any way you can come down and take care of pizzas for the night? And he had to double check with his wife, call me back, said, I'm going to help you out. So he came down. And then from that point, it was just like, go, go, go. And like, rush home, pack my bag, buy my passport, and then make it to the airport in 2 hours. Like almost like a Home Alone scene. And so it was a whirlwind. Like I remember I didn't eat for like a couple of days. It was just so wild. It was such a wild experience that I'll never forget.
That's a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And you were saying that that night your pizza maker was sick.
Yes.
Going back to the restaurant, a lot of I think when you think of Italian food, you think of like this some of the staple of olive oil, flour,
Mm-hmm.
tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's others, but for you, what is the all-star produce that you just love including in dishes?
Produce. Yeah. Well, for me, I guess my two biggest favorite meals are pasta and salad. Right. The whole joke was I don't like lasagna. I love pasta. So for me, I can eat pasta every day and just go through the kitchen of what to put in it, right? One day it can be chicken and spinach, the next day it's vegetables, the next day it's sausage, the next day it's just a aglio olio. So I guess the highlight was it's garlic. Garlic goes in a lot of the dishes. I love broccolini, red peppers. So I kind of like I call it the hockey pasta when I would go to play hockey. I would tell my cook it's just chicken with vegetables and no tomato sauce and like a white wine sauce.
So why is it called? Why do you call it hockey
Because I would
pasta?
always eat it before I go play hockey.
Ah, for the to load up
Yeah,
on carbs and energy.
yeah, yeah. My skate was at midnight on Thursdays for a while, and so that was the routine. Work, eat a bowl of pasta, and then go play hockey.
I really enjoy cooking, but now that I have an expert here, because I'm not a
Hmm.
chef or cook,
Uh,
garlic. Are there different type of garlics? Because I'll just go to the grocery store and get the whatever is on, and
yes,
is it, are there different
yeah. There
garlics
are different
available? Like
garlics.
what are the taste? What's
So
the
you'll
difference of
see a
them?
lot of times, for convenience, you can already buy peeled garlic, right? And one of the annoying things with garlic is peeling it. Right? You gotta use a lot sometimes in your dishes, and to break the bulbs out and peel it and cut it and get that skin all your like it's it's an inconvenience. So you can buy the bulbs or you can buy the bag, but they do come from different places. All the peeled garlic comes from one part of the world, and all the bulb garlic comes from a different part. And they'll say the bulb garlic is a little bit better quality, cleaner. The peeled garlic, you never know who's touched it, but well, all that. But a good nice piece of garlic goes a long way in a lot of Italian dishes.
I'm gonna keep that in mind because, like I said, I buy the one that you have to peel. You just chop off the
Yeah,
ends and
that
just go.
that's the better for you, better quality, but it's
Okay,
more tedious, right?
yeah,
So pick you know,
but that's why we have the sous chef, the prepper. That's
correct. Yeah,
the
that's a
the
job
ground.
you give to
That's
them,
the
right?
groundskeepers.
Yeah, exactly. There you
Gotcha.
go. Yeah, the groundskeepers, the preppers.
Yeah, without them, there's no game, and
Yeah,
without them, there's no dish to cook up. Staying right here with the produce and the food, but
yeah,
coming back to the Toronto Blue Jays,
yeah.
what is wrong with the produce of the Toronto Blue Jays? The players, the front office.
Um,
What's going on this
or-
year? Because just for those of you who don't know, the Toronto Blue Jays are what is it? We're
Terrible.
40 some games in. Very disappointing. Last place American League
Yeah.
East.
Yeah, it's not pretty to watch, not fun to watch. They're blowing games. They're not even in games. They can't hit. Pitching's been great, but they just can't hit for whatever reason. So I've always thought, and not just this year or years before, and maybe there's some analytic experts that'll prove me wrong or debunk me wrong or explain to me why they don't. But when things are like this and they can't hit and they can't get anything going, I don't know why they don't try something different. Like I always thought teams don't try bunting enough. I feel like that's a lost art of the game, small ball, as people call it, hit and runs. Like so many times they'll say, okay, because they're big hitters, Springer, Bo Bichette, Vladdy coming up, we're not going to ask them to bunt. That's not what we paid them for, and I get that. But if they're not hitting, what's the worst that can happen? Right? They're striking out, they're popping up, they're going 0 for trying to swing the ball. Why not try something different? Play for one run in the one inning instead of trying to, you know, do what's not working over and over again. So, and I think a lot of teams, I don't see bunting a lot either. So I don't know if there's a reason why they're doing this, but from watching from a fan's perspective, as putting my GM hat on, yeah, I would say, okay, you know what, you guys can't hit right now. Let's try something else. Take the mind out of it. Just bunt it. You're getting the bat out. You're doing something positive to help the team, right? Maybe you're sacrificing yourself or you're getting out, but for the better of the team. And then maybe that can get the wheels rolling, and then the bats will come coming alive.
No, I agree with you in the sense of you basically said what I think other people would retort with. We can't have these guys bunt because we pay them way too much money.
Yeah.
And why are we going to have them do this, that, and the
Mm-hmm.
other? But like you said, yeah, if things aren't working out, if they're scoring 2, 3 runs a game. I mean, your pitching staff can only do so much
Yeah. What do you
to
mean?
help
At
you
this
to
point, you have nothing to lose. Like it's still early in the season,
change
like
up the walk up song, bunt. I mean, do
yeah,
something. Wear the same socks for 10 days in a
it's
row.
not
I don't know.
forever. It's not forever, but
Yeah,
let's just say, okay, for this week, let's try, they all try different swinging approaches. Okay, you know what? I'm going to keep my front leg down, or I'm going to choke up on the bat. You trying that stuff, then why not try bunting? Like, who knows? If you don't know unless you try it. Like I tell my kids, you're not going to know if you like it unless you try it.
that's true. I started like not I don't know about liking, but I started following again the Blue Jays right around like that COVID season when all the good players of the 1990s and their sons just started
Yeah.
get signing with the Blue Jays, being drafted by the Blue Jays, and you're
Yes.
like, oh my goodness, that wave of talent is just gonna overwhelm the
Yeah.
American League,
It looks so promising.
and it's been really disappointing. It's like, what's going on? And on top of that, you're in Canada, I'm in the US, and I think it's not a good thing. But in the US, people don't talk about the Toronto Blue Jays as one of the bigger clubs in baseball. Toronto Blue Jays usually historically have a big payroll, they have
Yeah.
big stars, they have a fan base potentially of over 20 million people. I mean,
Mhm.
this is not some Milwaukee Brewers or Tampa
Yeah.
Bay Rays club. And I
Yeah.
think in the US, because we never really, not we, but the media doesn't think of the Blue Jays as a massive team and they're underperforming, I think it just gets worse from the perspective, sorry, which is sad.
Yeah, yeah. For they got they're the only Canadian team, so it's from American perspective, it's a easy team to like, I guess, root against. They're like, I know what the players, probably there's stories of players, basketball, hockey, baseball, dreading coming to Canada because it's different in the travel routine. You got to bring out the passport. A lot of players will have an X against Toronto. They're like, I'll never play there for whatever reason. And so, yeah, and they're not doing themselves any favor playing this poorly with already having a bad narrative on their city and their team. But yeah, when they do win and they're playing well and the playoffs are here, it's so fun to watch and be a part of. And like I got to go to one playoff game and the atmosphere was electric and it was wild. It was wild.
Yeah, you can
Hopefully,
tell. I think the Blue Jays, did the Blue Jays play the Mariners last year, or was it the Twins? I don't remember
uh
who they played last year.
last year what happened?
What was that when I think it was George Springer, like he like messed up his
Collided.
shoulder on, was
Yeah.
that last
That was
year or
against
2 years ago?
Seattle. They lost their first game. They were winning the second
Yeah,
game 8-1. And
that's
then
right.
Shed and Springer collided and the wheels fell off. I think we lost 10-8.
Yeah, but my point is that you can tell just I remember watching that game
Yeah.
of how much fun it would be if you're even there. I mean, it's fun just to watch
Oh,
it
yeah.
like, on your television and much less
Yeah.
like, man, if you're able to transport yourself there. So it's not like people,
Yeah.
like anywhere, like people want to root for a winner. And
Yes.
hopefully Toronto, the Blue Jays turn it around to make at least a run to the wild card because the American League East is a
Yeah.
very dangerous neighborhood. It's not some,
Yeah, it
like a
is.
National League Central or something like that.
Well, the thing with baseball, it's just so hard in general for how few teams make the playoffs. I've always been I've always harped on the MLB in that regard of the playoff structure. You play 264 regular season games plus 20 to 30 preseason games. So you're almost at like 200 games that are regular season, preseason. And then it all comes down to either a one game wild card game or a best of three, how they
Yeah.
do it with the wild card. So it's like you play so much and then it comes down and everyone loves playoffs atmospheres. And all sports, it's another level. The ticket prices are up. The stadiums are packed. So I've always wondered why they do the way they do it. Only have few teams make the playoffs. Less teams are in it. Like, why not shorten the season by one week, 2 weeks, make it like the NBA and NHL. 16 teams make it. So many teams are eliminated with 2 months left in this season, and then like people are like giving away their tickets because our stadiums are like, we'll pay you to come because no one's coming to these games. So why not shorten the season, make the playoffs longer? You know, all those 16 ballparks will be packed for those playoff games. And the money the teams would lose by not having those few home games, you can argue that you can make it up in revenue sharing playoff ticket sales. So I've always wondered why they do that, but the MLB has been here for so long, and people are kind of old school and like it the way they do. They already got annoyed when they added these wild card teams, but yeah, the Jays are up against it in their division with the team that they have to play against, and the way the structure works.
I'm thinking about what you had said about expanding the playoffs. My only pushback against that is it almost rewards these terrible owners who don't spend money.
Oh
And
yeah,
just for the fact that they finished third in their division, they can just float in and be like, oh, then they get to have some of that playoff money, which is real money. So I think even before someone would say the rule changed in 2025, we're going to have 12 teams in the playoffs now or whatever, we're 14
yeah,
teams. It's like, so a team like, I don't even know,
yeah, yeah.
Pittsburgh
A
Pirates,
middling team would make it.
who never ever want to spend money. They'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, now I can be getting tens of millions of dollars without having to spend a single cent more I'm handcuffing
Yeah,
my
well, yeah,
GM
you
with.
have to work it out that's not an incentive, but it'd be cool to see some of these teams in the playoff, like Trout. He's never made the play like one time or something. I know you don't want to reward teams that have a below 500 record, but sometimes that happens. They get in somehow if the division's poor. But I love playoff atmosphere, so I'm just here to push for more of that, more atmospheres. It just sucks when you see them. It comes down to a best of three,
Yeah.
right? The Jays last year was the best of three for the last 2 years because of the wild card way getting in. Um, and the atmosphere is so electric, and it's like you only get 2 games or three if you're lucky, if it goes to all the distance. And those other 250 games, not that they're meaningless, but they don't have the same feeling. Right. So I'm just like going for more of a balance, maybe not have to do it so drastically, but if every city can get more of those playoff games, maybe they'll get more fans.
Yeah, exactly. More that's always my big thing. Get younger fans. Not don't even
Mm,
have to go to baseball games because that'll happen, but just to
yeah.
be interested in baseball. Because once you're playing it, you're like, oh, let me see how some guy who's much better
Yeah.
than me
Hmm.
is doing it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, yeah, you'll get the average fan who's not a regular season fan, but when the playoffs come around, like that's when I watch because that's when it really matters. That's when they're playing their hardest, and that's what I want to see. I don't really care for the regular season, so therefore, let's get more playoff games for.
Absolutely. I'm gonna ask you a question I always ask my guests. I'm gonna do
Yeah.
the unthinkable, but I can't promise you a flight to New York though. We're gonna have to take you away from your day-to-day duties at Terrazza, and we're gonna anoint you the new general manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. What's one or two
Okay.
things you would do? And remember, you can do anything you want off the field, on the field, to help change the Blue Jays in your image.
Yeah. Well, like I've already mentioned, maybe change up the batting strategy with the adding some bunts here and there. Um, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of their play is the mental side. The mental side of the game and in life in general is huge, right? If your mind is not at ease or you're not thinking straight or you're not happy, you can't do your job well. If I'm in a bad mood or get in an argument with someone and I bring that to work, it's going to create a not a nice environment. So I'm always try to tell my staff, leave your problems at the door, don't come in unhappy. So I think a lot of that's what's going on with the Blue Jays. How do we fix it as a GM? I don't know. Maybe introduce more things that are fun. I don't know how because they play almost every day, and if you're losing every day, there's some sort of not fun at that moment. So a couple years ago when they had the players and they had the home run jacket and they were like dancing in the dugout, and some people made the argument that they're not taking the game serious, right? Because of what Vladdy was doing, and it was Teoscar at that time, and Gurriel,
Yeah, those
and
are
it was
just people
great
who
from.
don't like change. I mean, you can every team has their
Yes,
thing,
right.
their home
But is
run
this?
celebration.
Yeah, they're not. It seems like the last couple of years they've tried to sell themselves. Okay, we're going to be take a little bit more serious, and in doing so, maybe they've gotten away from baseball's meant to be for fun and having fun and playing a game. And that doesn't look like that they're definitely not having fun right now. And so I don't know how you say as a GM, you guys need to have more fun, or change up the pot the playlist in the room, or put a ping pong table, which I'm sure they do already. These players seem like they're very I don't want to say spoiled, but they have a lot of things at their disposal to help them with these iPads and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I would say, hey, let's have a team dinner at Terrazza, and let's let me cook for them and show them what I can do. And that might, we've had a lot of couples meet here and get married and start off a wonderful life. So maybe they need to come and try some of my cooking.
I think cooking to as well as maybe I don't think forcing is the right word, but encouraging them to see sports psychologists
Okay.
as well.
Yeah.
Because I've been talking to some psychologists and they're like sports psychologists, and you don't realize, well, you no, but you put it perfectly. It's a very mental sport, and the fact that you have to do
Hmm.
it every single day, and again,
Yeah.
just like in a restaurant, it's very hard to step away if you're doing something every single day to be like, let me see structurally what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also baseball is a game of failure, right? If you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you're an elite hitter. But you're still failing 7 times. So it's a game of not failing too much, but it's naturally you're not you're gonna get out before you get on. So you have to have a tough mind to like just forget it, flush it, and not get too down when things are down, not get too high when things are high. It's kind of my motto, how I live life. So the sun comes up the next day. There's a million people that would give their left arm to be in your situation, to be living the life you live. So, don't take it so seriously, and maybe that would help.
I like that you're encouraging them to have let me put this here, a weekly Toronto Blue Jays team dinner at Terrazza.
Yes.
And if they were doing that on a weekly basis, what's your favorite dish on the menu?
Favorite dish on the menu. Ooh. So I recently added some new pastas not too long ago. We one of the top ones I'd say is pasta carbonara with linguine. We make it. It's a very very particular dish. It's not easy to make. I have to say honestly, I haven't mastered it as my cooks. It's very time sensitive in terms of when you add the egg. So in saying that, having that dish right now is one of the best ones right now, because I can't make it myself. Um, I love our ponzos. I added panzerottis recently. We used to just be pizzas and calzones, but now I got a fryer. So we've added some new dishes, and one of the things I'm like, hey, let's make some panzerottis. Bring me back to my childhood when my father had a restaurant in the same location, and across the street they made panzerottis. And when I would sick home from school, I would get to come here because my nonna, my dad's mom, lived across the street, and I would hang out there and here. And then I would always say, Dad, can I get $2 to go across the street and get a panzerotti? And so then when I had the opportunity, I'm like, oh, I got to put that in the menu. And you can't eat too many of them because they're deep fried for sure. And so when I want to indulge, I go for a nice panzerotti.
Love that. By the way, here I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice. Earlier, you told us your favorite dish, pasta,
Yeah,
almost any type
hands
of
down.
pasta, but you're
Yeah.
not a big fan of lasagna. I
No.
think as a funny addition to the menu, you should have something that's called Frankie's lasagna, and it be a pasta dish.
Oh. Ah. Like a deconstructed lasagna.
Sure, but it's still pasta.
Ah.
And you. I mean, you're the owner. You have to have a dish named after you. I mean, come on, like you're the manager, you're the
Yeah.
GM, you're the star of the restaurant.
Well, I've never been one to shout me out, or make it all about me. I'm actually I don't like when it's about me. A lot of my big parties, my wedding, my 10th anniversary here, my 25th birthday, I remember I got very anxious, and a almost like need to throw up. So I don't like when it's about me. So I kind of stay away from that. I try to include my daughters and my kid and my wife in the menu.
Maybe
But
you
yeah,
can do your sister, like Roberta Clemente's lasagna.
but yeah, you know what? We've thought about the whole thing with not liking lasagna and like how, I've always thought you can't just have a lasagna on the menu. It has to be a killer one. It has to be like a out of this world. And I don't have that recipe, and people are like, oh, lasagnas are easy. They're so good. I'm like, I get that. But, yeah, it's my name. So like, oh, I gotta have the lasagna, Frankie Lasagnas. And they're gonna eat it. They're like a little bit underwhelming, right? So that's why I'm hesitant to put one on the menu. I did have a funny idea with the whole viral thing when I kind of became famous for like 3 days. And the whole thing about me not liking lasagna was got out there is that I would have like, makeshift reality show where people would come with their lasagnas and then we would do taste tests until there's a winner. And then that one would get to showcase their lasagna on the menu for the month or whatever.
I like that.
Never panned out. I never pushed it, but
Not yet.
that was a funny idea.
Not yet. Frankie,
Yeah,
I want
because everyone always comes in. They're like, "Oh, my mom makes a wicked lasagna. You would love it. I'm gonna bring it in one. Like, you know what? If you bring it in, I'll put it on the board as a special."
I love it. Frankie, I want to thank you for your time. But before you go, let us know where we can find your restaurant or anything on social media that you want to share with us.
Yeah. So Terrazza restaurant located downtown Toronto, Harbord and Shaw, 372 Harbord, Ossington and Bloor area. Our Instagram is Terrazza TO, and our website is terrazzato@gmail.com. You can find our menu, what we serve. If you want to book reservations, book parties, you can do it all there.
Thank you to Frankie for joining us this week. When you look around, summer's almost here. I guess in some parts of the country, summer is already here. And we know what that means. It means you can go watch baseball. But more importantly, summer is the time that you can sit on the beach with your family, with your friends, and ignore them while everyone is scrolling through their phones. And while you're wasting your time by not engaging with your family and friends on the beach under the umbrella, don't get sunburned. Use a few of those seconds to give us a follow on Twitter and on Instagram, Last Call Baseball. That's it. That's our name. And you know it's also good to wear at the beach while you're going to the sands, carrying the umbrellas, the coolers, wearing your Last Call Baseball podcast t-shirt. Different designs, colors, in men and women, all sizes. I'm going to include the link in the show notes and in social media. So get ready to show off that summer body. Because I was working on my summer body and on this podcast episode, I've been drinking a beer called Easy Riser Belgian White. That doesn't really roll off the tongue. Easy Riser Belgian White. It's a Belgian style wheat ale from a good American local brewery called Montauk Brewing Company in Montauk, New York. It's smooth. It's light. It's almost like a lager, even though it says it's a Belgian style wheat ale. And I love that you take some time to listen to us. Thanks for listening to Last Call Baseball. Be great and get home safe.